From the land of frozen lakes, this is 10,000 Takes. Brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. So here we go into late January already. And the NFL still continues to dominate the sports news cycle. We're down to the Fab Four championship weekend coming up. Minnesota Vikings, long gone, but they do make some news as they extend their head coach, Kevin O'Connell, multi-year deal, so he's going to stick around for a while. So what kind of grade do you give him through 3 seasons? Obviously, the regular seasons have been very good. 13-4, 14-3 this year. What were they? They were 8-9 last year, or they were 7-10? Well, right around that mark. 8-9, 7-10. They were below 500. They were in last place last year. But, I mean, I give them high marks. Obviously, they were not playoff ready. I consider that Lions game a playoff game, and they lost that. And then the Rams, they certainly were not ready for that they weren't even close in that game. I think he's totally proven himself as a regular season head coach. I mean, obviously year 2 was average, but the year 1 and year 3, they excelled in the regular season. But in the postseason, they become flops. Remember, the other playoff loss was at home to the New York Giants and Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. And that was a game I know they feel like they were going to win, but of course they did not. And then the Rams lost, a week and a half ago out there in Glendale, Arizona. They got smoked. I mean, I don't think there's any other way to phrase it. I know there were some bad calls that didn't go their way, but they still didn't win the game. Well, and I think in both cases, in the Rams game and in the Lions game that ended the regular season, and the Rams game, the playoff game, they had chances to make adjustments. They did not make adjustments. Kevin O'Connell and his staff did not make necessary adjustments in those games. Halftime of the Lions game, and the Lions, basically dominated the second half. And in the Rams game, the Rams basically threw the same blueprint at them that the Lions, it worked for the Lions the week before. So you would think you had that time to figure things out and say, okay, this is probably what we're going to see this week. And they did. And the Rams sacked Sam Darnold 9 times. An NFL playoff record. I do pin that on the coaching. They didn't change the passing strategy. They saw what Sam Darnold did against Detroit. He didn't want to get rid of the ball, and Detroit brought the blitz, and he was very skittish. And the same thing when the L.A. Rams were causing a lot of upheaval in the pocket with a very good pass rush. As you said, 9 sacks. You've got to have different a style of play calling. 1, 2, 3, throw. Go to a quicker release. Go to Aaron Jones more times out of the backfield. I also think KOC and the Vikings offensive brain trust need to commit more to the running game. I know when you fall behind, there's a temptation to veer and deviate and go to the air constantly. Right. But when you fall behind early, it's still not time to push a panic button. You can still try to establish the run. And they have a very good back in Aaron Jones. I mean, got to give him the rock more. And if you don't really want to run him all the time, throw it to him. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I'd say as a regular season coach, KOC's right there at a B. As a playoff coach, well, he's C-. That might be generous. Yeah, I think that is generous. That's grading on a curve. Okay, so they lost to the Lions and the Rams. The Packers were eliminated immediately. Then the Lions got knocked out by Washington. So all 3 teams in the powerful NFC North that was a record-setting division this year. Even the Bears weren't that bad. I mean, they had some injuries, and then they had the upheaval and some bad luck. Meltdown losses. Meltdown losses happened. The Washington loss on the Hail Mary. I mean, all kinds of things went wrong for the Bears. I think talent-wise, they weren't that bad. So you had this record-setting division, then all 3 completely flame out in the postseason. What a disaster. I mean, so is the NFC North not that good? Well, I think the Lions were pretty good, but all the injuries finally took their toll. For some reason, Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings offense could not take advantage of that Lions defense that gave up 45 to Washington and had second and third stringers running around for the last 4 or 5 weeks. 12 guys on the
Minnesota
DL.
did not score a touchdown against that depleted Detroit defense on the final night of the regular season, game number 272. And as you said, Washington puts up 45. So Minnesota's offense went into a rut. They only scored 1 touchdown against the Rams. Now, we know a big part of the reason is Sam didn't show up, but he was pressured constantly too. So for the Vikings, only the Minnesota Vikings could take a 14-win season and squander it where it feels very hollow. And you only lost to 2 teams, 2-game losing streaks twice, to Detroit, to the LA Rams, in that order, twice. So what does it all mean? Regular seasons tend to be overrated. It's what you do in the postseason. And are you hitting a crescendo?
Yeah. So where do the Vikings rank with the 4 teams that made it to the championship games? Kansas City, Buffalo, Washington, Philadelphia. I'm almost glad that they didn't have to play at Philadelphia. That might have been really ugly.
Yeah. Well, I said it in September. I've picked the Chiefs to three-peat all along. Best coach, Andy Reid. Best quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. I know his stats aren't that gaudy this season, but he's still Patrick Mahomes.
But how do the Vikings compare with these teams?
I don't think they're close. The Chiefs know how to win in the postseason. They have also an outstanding defense, sound special teams. I love Arrowhead, great venue. Do they compare with Washington? Well, Washington lately looks really, really good. And boy, they have a sensational young quarterback in Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn as a head coach. Now, remember, he took Atlanta to a Super Bowl a few years ago. Now, they had a colossal collapse against New England, but Quinn's been to a Super Bowl. So, and then you ask about Buffalo. Well, I don't think they're in Buffalo's
league
zip code. They don't have Josh Allen.
No.
Right? And so then Philadelphia, look, Saquon Barkley, what a 4-wheel drive running back. I mean, he was a snowplow against the Rams.
Good move by the Giants getting rid of that guy.
Yeah. He's fabulous. He's my MVP.
He's your
Saquon
MVP.
Barkley.
All right. We're going to talk some more. We're going to talk hoops and much more coming up next.
All right. We are 10K Takes, your purple ticket.
Seeing clearly matters. Being seen matters more. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
In Lakeville, Minnesota, dozens of meeting venues are ready to host your next corporate event, banquet, and holiday party. Lakeville has unique conference facilities, a variety of hotels, an abundance of team-building options, and dining that are sure to impress. For suggestions that suit your needs, please call the Lakeville Convention and Visitors Bureau at 952-469-2020 or go to visitlakeville.org. Lakeville, we mean business.
Push harder, recover faster, look and feel your best. At $5 tan, our infrared saunas are the secret weapon for athletes, fitness, and wellness lovers. Infrared heat penetrates deep to relieve sore muscles, boost circulation, and speed up recovery so you can stay in the game. Upgrade your fitness routine. Recover like a pro. Visit 5dollartan today to step up your wellness. Visit our website at $5tan.com for infrared locations. Feel good, perform great. Welcome back, 10,000 Takes, and we are going to veer off to a different topic here. We're going to talk about the University of Minnesota Gophers cheer squad. They won the national championships down in Orlando, the cheer and dance championships, and we are joined now by their coach. The cheer team coach is Dan Weaver. Dan has been on the job. This is his 6th season at the U of M. But obviously, this must be your best season, winning a national championship this past weekend. Tell us how it all came about. And basically what you told me is this is it. You get one competition a year, and you guys won the whole shebang.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we're really excited about the results this year. We've been building to this for a long time. It's been a lot of years of laying the groundwork and the foundation to get to this level and to establish ourselves as this caliber of program. But yeah, the weekend was incredible. We had a great Friday performance in semifinals for our game day division, and in the game day division, which is the division that we won, we that's really a replication of what we do on the sidelines back at home. So that incorporates your traditional fight song. It's your sidelines, which you would normally call to help get the crowd engaged, to cheer on the teams, and then we do a timeout routine, which is a little bit more creative and brings some fun transitions and entertainment value while still getting crowd participation. So that's a real replication of what we do at home on the sidelines at Minnesota football games, Minnesota basketball games, when we're cheering on the Gophers. And to be able to take that to the competitive stage and to do that against the other best programs in the nation, and to come out on top as the premier program, it's a huge honor. And we always say if we do our work back in preseason in June, July, August, getting ready for the season, that we don't have to redo that work to get ready for nationals. It's really just taking exactly what we do at home and the standards that we have for our program.
And Dan, Minnesota has a pedigree in cheerleading. I know it was the first ever cheer title that the U of M has won. There's been 23 in the dance category, 28 overall. And I was told recently that the University of Minnesota is kind of looked at as the epicenter of cheerleading. Why is that?
Well, we are the founders of cheerleading, which is a little known fact to those outside of Minnesota or outside of the cheer world. But we are the founders of cheerleading. It goes all the way back to 1898. We had a student named Johnny Campbell who hopped the fence at a football game, led the crowd in a cheer, and the Gophers came back and won the game. And that's the birthplace that's recognized by the entire industry as the time when cheerleading was born. And so only one program gets that claim to fame, and that's us. So we're very excited to be the nation's longest standing cheerleading program, and to be able to actually bring our first national championship. I guess it also ends the longest drought of any program ever, because we have the longest standing cheerleading program.
Well, yeah, I don't think that record will ever be broken, by the way, if you started in 1898. Holy smoke. Talk about the athleticism that it takes to be part of this.
Yeah, so cheerleading is not what it was, 30, 40 years ago. It's not it's not necessarily like, oh, anybody can do it just because they have spirit and they can pick up a pair of palms. Our athletes start training as early as, they're in diapers, to get recruited to be at this level. And we take our recruiting very seriously. We try to recruit nationally and only pick the best prospect of athletes that we think can represent the university. And we're very fortunate that we've been able to bring in some of the best athletes from across the country to help continue to push this team forward. But yeah, a lot of this, from an athleticism standpoint. Our athletes, they work very, very hard. There's a tight discipline that they have to take between strength training and the tumbling aspects that come into it too. They're all very elite tumblers, which also goes hand in hand with some of the elite level skills that we do. So there's that fine line between, we have to tumble, so we have to be very athletic on that side, just like gymnasts would be. But then there's also the stunting basis where we're putting bodies on top of bodies and we're throwing them up in creative new ways. So there's a lot of strength training and stability that comes with that too, and explosiveness that comes with that. So the discipline that they need to have with their athleticism is it's very high level stuff. And the industry continues to move forward. The sport moves forward every year, and the skills that people were doing 5 years ago, those have become a little bit more basic level now for what the top level teams are doing. And so our athletes have to continue to evolve as the sport evolves.
How exciting is it for you, Dan, to realize that it wasn't that long ago cheerleading was viewed as just an accessory to the event? It was a sideline decoration almost. Now it's a sport. It's legitimate, and young guys and gals, kids, want to do this.
Yeah, it's fantastic for the industry. It's always taken a lot of hard work. The hard work has never been missed, but to actually get more recognition now. And we've really seen, even in the past few years, it continues to grow and grow and grow, get more recognition. And sometimes I think social media is great for that too, because you start to see a lot more of what this is and what it takes. And it's just great that we get a lot more respect, and there's a lot more recognition of what it is. Usually, once you see it, you kind of get it, but a lot of people just don't actually see what the actual competitive side of cheerleading looks like. And so we're just really happy that we've been able to get a lot more respect on that side of things, and our athletes get a little more of the recognition that they deserve, because they certainly work very, very hard, and just as hard as any other athlete.
Well, Dan, we appreciate you spending some time with us. Congratulations on leading the U of M cheer squad to its first ever national championship. I'm sure that you're hoping that there are more to come. And as you've already said, there's still more to come as far as cheering goes. You're only in the middle of your season right now. So good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely more to come. I appreciate you guys having me on. Skayima.
All right.
Congrats, Dan.
He is Dan Weaver. He is the head cheer coach at the University of Minnesota. They are national champions. I think a lot of other squads at the U of M would like to have that label. Back with more after this timeout. Stay with us.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect. Maya? Oh, I love your earrings. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
In Lakeville, Minnesota, dozens of meeting venues are ready to host your next corporate event, banquet, and holiday party. Lakeville has unique conference facilities, a variety of hotels, an abundance of team-building options, and dining that are sure to impress. For suggestions that suit your needs, please call the Lakeville Convention and Visitors Bureau at 952-469-2020 or go to visitlakeville.org. Lakeville, we mean business.
Welcome back, 10,000 Takes. This past Monday night, I enjoyed watching Ohio State deliver a championship, a national title to the Big Ten, beating Notre Dame. Notre Dame, of course, beat Penn State, another Big Ten team. So the question becomes, how far off, and this question was asked of me on NPR earlier this week, how far off are your Golden Gophers from, I don't know about winning a title, but making it into the college football playoff? They had 12 teams this year, and Gophers weren't close.
They were not. First and foremost, congratulations to the Ohio State University. $20 million well spent.
Yes, it was.
On name, image, and likeness. They got the crown. You can't argue with it. So that $20 million, that might be a benchmark if the University of Minnesota wants to even think about making the field of 12, the dozen teams, and it's probably going to grow here in the next couple of years. But they weren't close this year. They had an 8-5 season. I think the main thing is you can't have these hiccup losses that seem to be a trademark, not only of PJ, but every Gopher coach in the last 6 decades, where you lose to somebody like Rutgers.
6 decades.
Or you lose to North Carolina on opening night. Because you've got to get in to the tournament. The most losses you can probably have is 2.
Yeah.
And even that's a little bit of a slippery slope. Look, we know the Big Ten is hyper competitive. There's great teams. You laid it out. Ohio State's the champion. Penn State was in the Final Four. Michigan won it a year ago before they started this tournament, but still Michigan was the champion a year ago. So how do you crack that code? That's a difficult thing right there. Maybe the best thing for the Gophers is, hey, can we go out to the Big 12 or the Mountain West? Look at Arizona State. They came out of the Mountain West. They were supposed to be like last, and they punched a ticket, won the conference, got that first round bye, so they right away were in the Elite 8. I think that's the kind of conference that would be realistic for Minnesota every 3 or 4 years to make a run. In the Big Ten, it's going to be challenging. They have to keep pounding on NIL. They got to go to these Fortune 500 companies, and they got to beg for money because that's what it's become now. And also avoid transfer portal defections.
Yeah, well, so you want to cut and run is what you're saying. You go to the Mountain West or to the new Pac-10 or Pac-12, whatever it's going to be out there. You want to get out of Dodge. And look, Indiana made it. I mean, if the Indiana Hoosiers football program, these aren't Bobby Knight's Indiana Hoosier basketball teams from the 70s and the 80s and into the 90s. These are the Indiana Hoosiers football team that made it into the playoff. As a matter of fact, Indiana and Penn State played for the Big Ten title. Ohio State wasn't even in the Big Ten title game, and they win the national championship. So one thing it does tell me, other than they spent their money wisely over at Columbus, Ohio, is that this tournament worked. 12-team tournament.
Well, a wild card essentially won it. Ohio State.
Well, yeah.
As you just laid it out. Now, Indiana is the more likely analogy you can make for Minnesota.
I agree.
It wasn't that long ago, I think, in these parts where all people really wanted, they never really truly thought they'd be Michigan or Ohio State or Penn State. But can we at least be Wisconsin? Can we at least be Iowa? Well, now you got to throw Indiana into the mix because they've been historically horrible in football, yet they had a fantastic season. So is it impossible? No. And now you can pay guys. So if Minnesota can find that secret sauce of NIL and avoid the portal, I don't think the Gophers are that far away. I thought this new bloated Big Ten would be bad for Minnesota. I think it gives them a better chance. But it's all going to be all about how much dough can you come up with?
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
By the way, I forgot about Oregon. They were unbeaten. They were actually in the Big Ten championship game. Not, was it Penn State out of it or was Indiana out of it? I don't recall. Right
it
now.
Was Oregon and I believe Penn State.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, it wasn't Indiana. But nonetheless, so there were 4 Big Ten teams in that tournament, and Minnesota didn't sniff it. So that tells you something right there that, they've got a long ways to go. But at the same time, as you just said, if you're going to compare programs, let's compare Indiana to Minnesota.
And one more thing, and I don't believe in moral victories and the woulda, coulda, shoulda scenario. But if you somehow would have beaten North Carolina, a bad Tar Heels team, and if you somehow would have not lost at Rutgers, and they had Penn State on the ropes.
To Kaliakek Manis.
Exactly. Their old quarterback. You take those 3 losses, turn them into W's, that's an 11-win Minnesota team. They might be in the tournament.
Oh, boy. All right.
I know, but it's a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda, and that's the Minnesota way, right?
Yeah. What about basketball? Women's basketball is off to a great start this year. Ranked to the top 25 for the first time in a few years. Men's basketball got a signature win last week on a half-court buzzer beater from Dawson Garcia. What are your thoughts on those two? I mean, I don't think that the Gophers are anywhere near the men anyway, aren't anywhere near being an NCAA team this year. But does Ben hang on to his job, even if let's say that they win some games down the stretch here? Does Ben hang on?
I think so because he's lost so many guys through the portal that he's had to start over. And you got to build this chemistry. The second half's going to be crucial. They've got to string some wins together and show that there's a future on the horizon that looks bright and also not lose guys again in the portal. Now, the women, you got to give Dawn Plitzenwhite a lot of credit. She's been here a couple of years. Mara Braun's not playing. This freshman from Minnetonka, Tori McKinney, appears to be the real deal. They're ranked. I mean, good for the Gopher women. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah. All right, more to come. Takes of the day waiting on deck. Don't go anywhere.
Finding the ideal place to stay is important for business travelers. Lakeville, Minnesota is conveniently located off I-35, just south of the Twin Cities with a variety of hotel choices. Lakeville offers convenient amenities such as shopping, walking trails, golf, and more. Our unique meeting spaces, historic downtown, live music, and over 60 dining options are sure to impress. Book your next stay in Lakeville and experience convenience, comfort, and quality. Find your perfect hotel at visitlakeville.org.
Hey, get your sports fix. By tuning in to 10K Takes, we cover all the Minnesota teams.
Vikings, Twins, Wild, Gophers, you name it. Fox 9 Plus and the Fox Local app.
Seeing clearly matters. Being seen matters more. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
"10K Takes" on television as we wrap up yet another episode. Big shout out to the viewers in the Twin Ports and the Twin Cities.
Yes.
Up and down that busy I-35 corridor. All right, they're going to find out what your mood is. Angry American, sarcastic Sam, beaming Buckeye, happy camper. What is it this week?
Well, I'd love to talk about the Buckeyes for the next couple minutes, but we won't do that. We're going to push ahead and talk Minnesota Twins. No, not Twins Fest. I know that's going on this week, and I know you're going to occupy some of your time heading over to Target Field. No, I want to talk about their television broadcasts or cable cast or satellite cast or streaming cast, whatever the cast may be. So, yes, we are going to have something called Twins TV coming up this season. And supposedly it'll be available via satellite. It'll be available via streaming packages. It'll be available by your cable operators. So get ready. If they're using the model that you saw with the San Diego Padres and the Arizona Diamondbacks that they use, this is Major League Baseball actually running the show now. It's about $20 a month, $99 for the season. That's what they charged last year in San Diego anyway. Is this going to work? Sure, it's going to have a much bigger footprint, about triple the size of the potential audience that watched them or were able to watch them last year. The whole thing with Bally Sports North, which eventually became FanDuel Sports, that was just a disaster for the Twins. And you thought the thing on the field was bad? The TV thing was probably even worse. The good news is not enough people were able to watch them last year as they plummeted towards the end of the season. So, yes, the Twins are back on television. No, you can't watch it over the air. I still think that they should put some of those games on over-the-air TV, but what do I know?
Not much, apparently.
I know.
Let's see. Mood meter lands right in the middle. Sarcastic Sam. Okay. Yes.
Are you willing to pay $20 a month to watch the Twins? I didn't think so.
No.
Well, and the killer here is that if you have that FanDuel package, okay, so you get the Wild and the Timberwolves, then you have to have a whole nother package to get the Twins. So now you're talking about an extra $40 a month. That used to be my entire cable bill.
That's a hard pass for me. I go to enough games.
Yeah.
I'll find the games somewhere.
I'm sure you will.
Okay. Well, my take of the day, let's talk weather games. You know, we don't get them anymore here with the Minnesota Vikings. They decided to build a sterile, homogeneous, and antiseptic dome.
I've never heard you say that before.
But we get them in other parts of the nation. And what I saw Sunday in Philadelphia at the Link, L.A. Rams team coming out of SoCal, so that gave it an extra little bit of, a twist, right? The warm weather club against the Eagles in the snow. Mm-hmm. That was tremendous.
It was.
Theater. That was fun. It was mano-a-mano football, hard hitting. The Zebras didn't drop a lot of flags. They let them play. Saquon Barkley was a human snowplow running for over 200 yards. And, back and forth it went. And the elements were a huge part of it. The footing was tricky. I thought the Rams actually looked pretty comfortable in it. And the Eagles obviously were comfortable enough to win it. I didn't hear any complaints after the game from those, tough Philadelphia fans saying how cold it was and they couldn't handle it. They loved it. Everybody loves snow games. It garners huge ratings for the NFL. So the NFL needs to learn a lesson here. Don't build more domes. You need more games like what we saw with the Rams and the Eagles, and even the game after it, the Baltimore-Buffalo game. It was a snow-coated field in Buffalo. So I love the weather games.
Yes, you do.
Maybe we'll get some more this weekend.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, we got to go. Let's FedEx out those thank yous. Dan Weaver, David Weld, Paul Langfellow. For Wally, I'm Eric Singh. So long. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.